Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Sunday morning edition of the Same Old Arsenal podcast, sponsored by Ruth Beck Art. If you are not aware of Ruth's work, then you should go and check out her shop. I don't know if she's still on Etsy. I think she's still on an Etsy shop, but I think she's also got her own website. But check it out. I probably should do my homework, given that she's our sponsor, but I'm not very good at that. I'm also a little bit raging, frankly, and I'm sure you people, lovely people in the chat, are going to be a little bit ragey. And we've just been discussing why we might be a little bit ragey in the virtual green room. I should introduce the co-hosts, the guests, the family, the team, the same old Arsenal team. James in the top right-hand corner. Cookie, you all right?
I'm not too bad, mate. Lots to discuss today. Looking forward to it.
Yes, looking forward to it. And PG at Goonagirl1969. It is Amanda. How are you?
Normally like the next day I calm down. I'm like, I can get through it. I see it all, and maybe what I've said is wrong or whatever. No, I'm still raging. And apoplectic is my new word.
Apoplectic with rage. And I don't think there's anywhere else. We have to start because this entire game has to be viewed through the prism of one individual and incident, which, frankly, I've never seen such a universal agreement online across not just Arsenal fans, but everywhere. Match of the day, Alan Shearer, Henry Winter, Ian Doyle, who is a journalist who writes about Liverpool. All of them are universally talking about that single moment, Amanda, that happened on the 43rd minute, where Michael Oliver has decided. By the way, I will point out last season, Howard Webb was at pains to say Michael Oliver, who doesn't want to ruin a game, when he should have sent off Kovacic at the Emirates. Michael Oliver decides that he does want to ruin a game, and he shows a straight red card for what has been described as serious foul play. Amanda, I think we probably just need to get this stuff off of our chest. So I'm going to let you go first for a few minutes.
Okay.
Just tell us what your thoughts and feelings are, and then Cookie, give me some of yours, and we'll go from there.
So watching it live, I literally turned around to Carl and went, oh, well, he's going to have to be careful because he's going to be on a yellow now. So I wasn't watching the screen as he pulled the red, because I literally, when I left to be careful now, definite yellow, he's going to have to be careful. And I literally, when I saw the red, I went into shock a little bit for a second. I thought, I just think he's got the wrong card out. And then I saw all the Arsenal players go over. Now, in the situation where we're trying to watch it live, there is no replays for us at that moment. I can't just rewind it back. And then I thought, okay, no worries, because this is where VAR has been brought in to do. VAR has been brought in to deal with the on-field errors that a referee makes. So my heart went back down a little bit a second, because I thought, oh, there's just no way. They're going to call him over to the screen and he's going to, rescind it. They carried on playing, and then they announced that VAR have said it's perfectly fine. And I think from that moment on, and I mean, look, I'm no different to any other Arsenal fan. We're all raging. Everyone's on social media screaming the place down. I'm like, he's been sent off in our half, not meaning he was the last man or anything, but meaning how this is so ridiculous. He's been sent off in our half for a trip. Now, boys, that I'm always generally not in the majority of things. I will say it as I see it. And I do feel now that Michael Oliver has definitely got an agenda against us. Why? I don't know. I mean, the City trips abroad, the Newcastle fan in him because we're playing him in 2 weeks. There's all this speculation going around. But I will say this. I could have understood him giving that red card because he saw it in a split second. I can understand that. But what I don't understand is VAR. And then to come out, and as you rightly say, every pundit, I haven't seen anyone. I've got Liverpool fans and City fans who all laugh at me continuously when I say there's an agenda. All think, no way. Okay. But then you get to the stage where you're thinking, I literally had an absolute strop and went, I'm done with football. I'm done with it. We can't win the league. We keep getting these decisions go against us. And I just want to touch on something else. When Joel, I can't say his name, so I'll say Gomez. fouled disgustingly Gabriel and got a second yellow, and then was sent off. If you're telling me that Lewis Skelly's red and his yellow, it was worse than that, you don't know anything about football, and I will say that now. So Harry's given a second yellow for that. That surely is a red, and that's more of a red than Lewis Skelly. So I think our anger is not just on yesterday. It has been coming and coming and coming. You can excuse a couple of errors. I get it. I never understood why he sent off Trossard at City for kicking. He didn't kick the ball away. He was kicking it to Martinelli. He didn't hear the whistle. The 2 yellow cards he gives Martinelli in that run of play, where he was just, you'll never see it again. You'll never see that again. It's a trip. There is nothing else. I've watched it a million times. It is a trip. It is a blatant yellow card. Skelly knew what he was doing. Little bit, not snidey, but he had to stop the run of play. He did the right thing. In my head, he's done the right thing to protect us. So I'm going to hand it over, because obviously I'm not going to go on all the whole thing, but my thoughts are that VAR has come in to rectify mistakes. Are they the only people on this planet then that think that that is correct?
James, we normally do questions at the end, but I'm going to put this one up just to kind of frame your kind of thoughts. You can go in whatever direction you want here, mate. So Pete G has said, do you think the card will get overturned? I think there's a few bits I'd like you to kind of pick apart for me, Mr. Cook. Number one, do you think the card will get overturned? Number two, do you think Michael Oliver has this inherent bias, or, like I was saying in our WhatsApp group yesterday, I'm going to be calling that corruption this morning. I'm not sure that I really want to go down that route. Like, where's your head at?
So, in answer to the first part of the question, I sincerely hope it gets overturned. I mean, surely it has to, right? It's that obvious of an error that it's got to get overturned. But I think when it comes to that committee that come together to make these decisions, I think it's going to be a lot closer than we would think it would be. I think we'd all assume, oh, it's going to go to a panel and they're all going to say, yeah, definitely, let's overturn that. But you've got to remember, this is made up of ex-referees, ex-managers, ex-players. I think a lot of the ex-players and ex-managers will be like, yeah, that's got to be overturned. But the refereeing committee are going to be like, well, maybe we can see this here and this here. In the actual time of the incident itself, I couldn't believe how quickly he got his red card out. Like, in that moment, why are you so quick to get a red card out at that point in the game where it wasn't exactly early, but it's not a critical point in the game. It's not stopping a goal scoring opportunity. We're talking about it being violent conduct, serious foul play. I mean, I don't know if you guys watched Match of the Day, but just look at that Julio Enciso challenge on one of the Liverpool players where he was basically kung fu kicking him in the chest. And we're saying that's not a yellow card, but this is a red card. And then you look at the Gomez tackle later in the game. That is, that could have been an ankle breaker for Timber. And we're saying that's a yellow card. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I mean, obviously, you can freeze frame the Lewis Skelly challenge and you can look at moments where I think it makes it look a hell of a lot worse than it actually is. But if you play it in real time, it's quite clear that the bulk of the contact is with Doherty's foot. And that's what, it's a trip. We all know it's a trip. If Rodri got sent off for these kind of fouls, he would never play a game of football in the Premier League. The players are renowned for this sort of stuff. It's a professional foul. We see it week in, week out. And you look at the red cards we're getting this season, particularly from someone like Michael Oliver, who's now issued 8 red cards to Arsenal, which is bewildering in itself, especially for a referee that's still quite young. But the cards we've received, going all the way back to Declan Rice one, we have not seen an incident like that again. Well, actually, we have, because we saw the Trossard one. Yeah, of course, go on.
Can I just quickly jump in 2 secs? Yesterday, Man City versus Chelsea, Kevin De Bruyne did exactly the same as Declan Rice did. Nothing. But carry on, Hooker.
No, it's exactly that. I mean, and yesterday, we're not going to see a red card for that incident again. And, even if you want to really nitpick, let's look at the William Saliba one where he got sent off against Bournemouth. That's the only one where I can look at and be like, okay, maybe he deserved the red card there. But even that same weekend, we saw Van der Ven and Tosin of Chelsea make very similar challenges in similar areas of the pitch, and there was nothing given. So it's just bewildering. I just can't get my head around it, Chris. I'm with you. I don't want to go down the route of corruption, but I definitely think there's an unconscious bias with these referees. And when you look at pictures coming out after the game of Michael Oliver in a Newcastle shirt. And guess who we've got in the Carabao Cup in a few weeks' time? You can't help but think, is there a reason why he's done that? Is there a reason why he was so quick to get that red card out? Was he just looking for an excuse to get an Arsenal player sent off? Any other referee surely gives a yellow card. And Darren England's just as culpable, by the way. Like, he's as much of a disgrace as Michael Oliver. They should say, in that moment, look, Michael, we think there's been an incident, serious foul play, go to the monitor and have a look. But first, issue the yellow card. And then for VAR not to, when the red card is given, for VAR then not to say, look, have a look at the monitor at least do that. It just, it's
embarrassing.
Arsenal.
It's embarrassing. Honestly, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I tweeted straight away, if that was Virgil van Dijk, Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, Haaland, never in a million years are they getting sent off. No one's getting sent off for that. No one except us. So what is it then? If it's not an unconscious bias, what is it?
Yeah. So where my head's at as well with this is we're living in a time where we have an ex-referee who's now on the Sky Sports panel, Mike Dean, who has in the last year admitted that he didn't want to, it was a Chelsea-Tottenham game, I think it was, and the pullback of hair with Cucurella and something else, that he didn't want to tell Anthony Taylor, you need to go and look at that because he'd had a tough game already. So we're already admitting that what you're doing here is you're adding your personal opinions, overruling the letter of the law. We've had that this season, haven't we? The letter of the law. So we've already heard that. That's evidence. So we know that these referees think like this, which is unacceptable in itself. We've also know that we've had a referee in David Coote who has been caught red-handed, like videoed, showing his biases against a football team, Liverpool. And so you can't now dismiss, in my opinion, when you see the evidence stacking up of somebody like Michael Oliver. Where my head's at right now is that I do believe that he should never be allowed, I think there was somebody said it in the chat, he should never be allowed to referee an Arsenal game ever again. That Arsenal have a body of evidence now to say, why is this happening? Why is the Trossard situation happening? It's not happened somewhere else. Why is the Martinelli situation a few seasons ago with two red cards in 7 seconds happened and never again? And why has this happened again on the same ground? Why has Kovacic not been booked? Why do we have Howard Webb saying he doesn't want to ruin the game? Why are you not applying that same logic when it's with Arsenal? Yes, we get accused of being the moaniest fans. Yes, we get accused of being a little bit too sensitive. But I think even I'm seeing some things online where even neutrals are saying this seems to happen quite a lot to Arsenal. They're not even sort of supporting us. They're just sort of questioning this is happening quite a lot. And when you're talking about the difference between a few points at the end of a season, which could be the difference between a first title in over 20 years for Arsenal Football Club. As it stands at the moment, we've got quite a big gap to fill. And I'm with you, Amanda. I don't think it's possible. But, we're still in it. We're still fighting. And yet we've just spent the first 15 minutes of this 1 hour podcast talking about nothing to do with the game itself. We're talking about officials. It's unacceptable. It's wrong. I do think we probably should move on to the game itself, because otherwise we're going to go down a rabbit hole of just moaning about VAR. But I'll finish off by saying I just want to reiterate that I genuinely think Arsenal have a case to say to the PGMOL, to the FA, to the Premier League, you cannot put this man in charge of our football matches anymore. It's unacceptable. James, let's talk about the game itself. William Saliba was back in the side. How much of a relief was that for you? Because I'll be frank, I was a little bit nervous that Kivior going up against someone like Cunha could be a little bit of a challenge. But where was your head at with the lineup? I think there was also a little bit of the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away because Martin Odegaard's ill. Yeah,
really frustrating actually, Chris, because I saw the lineup and I was really excited and happy by it. But then I was looking through, I was like, where's Odegaard? And then where's Marino? And you're just thinking, okay, great. We've got Saliba back, we've got Lewis Skelly back, but we've just lost Erdegaard and we've just lost Mikel Merino. Whatever your thoughts are on him, he definitely would have come on in that game. He might have even started that game. So it's really, really frustrating to have lost those two players. I was really pleased Saliba was back. I thought he was excellent throughout the entire game. And it's good that he's kind of getting, not that he's been out for a particularly long stretch of time, but he's going to be up to speed for that game against City next week. I think we are really running on empty though in terms of the squads. I think that couldn't be any more evident with Kai Havertz. We've got to find a way of not playing him in that game in midweek so he's fit and fresh for the game against Man City next week. I do obviously have worries about the amount of minutes that some of these players are playing, like Martinelli, Trossard. We're running these guys into the ground. We have to sign somebody because our squad looks threadbare, absolutely threadbare. I mean, that bench, 2 goalkeepers, 2 left backs, two centre halves was it on the bench yesterday? Props to Kieran Tierney for coming on and playing a very good 10-15 minutes. He was really good when he came on, and he's really bringing me back to the Kieran Gibbs, Nacho Monreal days. If anyone is, I don't want to say old enough because it wasn't actually that long ago that we saw those days, but it does feel like a lifetime ago. But yeah, it was a good lineup, Chris. I was pleased to see Wanyeri in there. I thought he got a bit of a hard deal by having to come off due to the red cards. It's just, I would love to see a team like Liverpool go away from home without, say, Mohamed Salah and McAllister, because that's the equivalent of what we lost yesterday. And not forgetting, all the other players we're missing, Ben White, Tomiyasu, etc., etc. Go away to a team like Wolves and win the game, especially when you consider the red card as well. I think you've got to give enormous credit to this Arsenal team, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but I just think you have to look at this result in isolation and forget any talk about winning the league or whatever. Just look at this result as a standalone win. Everything went against us. Yeah. Absolutely everything. We're missing key players. We're missing Bukayo Saka. We're missing Martin Odegaard. We've had a player sent off. And again, I'm jumping the gun here. Actually, no, I'm gonna park the Calafiori chat for later on. I don't want to say everything I've got in the bank.
Can I just say about Odegaard, focus on that
first half.
Sorry. Can I just say about Odegaard? The relief, though, is that he's just ill. That was the relief. As soon as I found out he was ill, because obviously, as you know, I've been ill the last couple of weeks. Seems like half the world has. So it's going to happen to some of our players for sure. That he should be all right in about a week or so. If that was an injury, I think I'd have just cried because, like Cooks was saying, how many more games are we going to turn up and go, oh, he's not playing, oh, he's injured, or he's not playing? But I don't think we've given our squad, which is a thin squad, enough credit, because we are so threadbare at the moment that you literally sat there and went, well, that's Miles out for 3 games. Who's playing? Tierney? We've got Zinchenko against City. I mean, you just sit there and go, oh my God. But we've got Girona before that anyway. And I am really, really proud of the boys. But sorry, Chris, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, let's focus in on that first half before we get to, because the real sort of proud moment has to come in that second half, particularly when the first part of it will be dominated. We're going to come to that one though. But we started off the game like controlling the ball, not creating tons of chances, but the first chance actually fell to Wolves on 10 minutes with Semedo running down the wing, knocking the ball into Sarabia, just going over. I'll be honest, when that cross came in, I just thought this is going to be classic. They score with their first goal again, like Brentford. It didn't happen, and then we took the initiative. So let's run ourselves up to when it was the horrendous decision on 43 minutes. How did you think the first half played out? Because for me, we were in control. We created a few chances. There was the Havertz header, which just went wide. One that Jose Sarr just got his foot to. But it didn't feel like we were smashing down the door, did it? How were you feeling in that first half in the lead up to when Lewis Skelly was sent off?
I thought, here we go again. They had their first attack, although we had the ball for that period of time. And it's just going to write it, can't you? Their first attack, it's going to go in. It didn't. I felt like we was pretty much in control. They're not a great side, we have to say that. So it was probably the best team we could have played yesterday, with 10 men at that moment. And then obviously they went down to 10. But I felt like we was pretty much in control. I was disappointed with Havertz, with that header. of the whole goal, he's just gone straight. And I hate being disappointed with Havertz because I've always been his biggest fan since day one. I've always supported him and told everyone else to give him a chance. But we can't keep missing chances like this. And this is why every Arsenal fan's screaming for a striker, because the amount of opportunities we create, we wouldn't be 6 to 9 points or 6 points behind Liverpool. If you think about that foot at Fulham, if his foot wasn't offside, we'd have won that game. 2 more points closer. There's always these little things that are stopping us at the moment. And I predicted at the beginning of the season we would win the league. I can't see it because of all the refereeing decisions, to be honest, and the missed chances. However, I felt like we were an injury. Oh, of course, yeah, everything's got. If we win the league this year, this will be the biggest feat ever. I'm telling you, with everything we've gone against, with everything that's gone against us. But I will say, I thought I wasn't worried. I wasn't sitting there thinking we're going to lose this. Where the last few weeks I have felt a little bit less confident. I thought we were in control. Luckily, they weren't so good. I thought that was a bit niggly in a few tackles that Oliver let go, but up to 43 minutes, I didn't really think that he was that bad, if I'm honest, Chris.
No, James, they gave the ball away a lot, didn't they? There were so many mistakes by the Wolves players. How do you come to terms with that first half and where your head was at?
I mean, yeah, it was controlled, but as has been the case for a while now, it's a lot of control without any cutting edge. And we did have chances. We did obviously have that one scare. There was the Sarabia chance, which would have been a brilliant goal if it had gone in. But that was the only real Wolves effort that I felt a little bit worried about. On our side, obviously, we had those 2 Havertz chances. One of them he puts just wide of the post, and the other one, it's a good save by Sarr, but let's be honest, he should score that. And I don't want to dig too much of a hole for Kai Havertz because I think he is knackered, and you can clearly tell at the end of the game. I'm not saying that's excusing those kind of point blank chances that you should be putting in the back of the net, but I just can't help but wonder if we could give this guy a little bit of a rest and have him share the workload with someone else. Does he put those chances away? Because he's getting into positions, he's just not finishing off the chances. And if you look back at the 2 games where everyone was really piling in on him, Newcastle and United, where he did miss glaring opportunities, he did obviously come back off that, what we believe is quite a serious illness. Was he potentially rushed back in those scenarios? Were we too quick to judge those misses that he had? We were basically playing him because we had no real other options there. So it's hard for me to really criticise Kai Havertz when he's literally our only man that can play in that number 9 role. Okay, we've got Leandro Trossard there. He hasn't played there for a little while, but we've got no Gabriel Jesus. Eddie Nketiah was sold in the summer. We've got no one else that he can share the workload with. So we're running him into the ground. But in answer to the question about the first half, I was pretty content with it. I never thought this was going to be a game that we were going to blow teams away. I can't see us winning games 4, 5, 6-0 at the minute. I would love us to, but it's not because I think we're playing badly. It's just because I think we're on our last legs at the minute.
Yeah, I agree with you. And do you know what? When I was at university, so many, many years ago, we did a college cup tournament, and it happens at a certain point in the year. So it happens literally, you're paying every couple of days, 11 aside every couple of days. And it's the first time, I was 21. It was the first time I've ever realized what fatigue does to you, not just physical fatigue, but mental fatigue as well. And I remember playing about 4 or 5 games in a row over the course of a couple of weeks. And by the end of it, I wasn't physically tired during games, but my concentration just sort of switched off a little bit, or I was just not 100% there mentally. And that's what probably we're seeing with the likes of Havertz. He can go to bed, he can have a rest day, he can recharge his batteries. I mean, some of it will be physical towards the end of a game, but some of it impacts you mentally as well. So yeah, I'm with you. I think he needs support. I think they need support. We almost just need to get through the next week, hope that we can just do the basics against Girona, and then just give it one last push against City. I think personally the Newcastle game's beyond us, but that's City game for me, and then get yourselves to Dubai. Second half, so we're not going to talk about the red card because we already have. That happened. Stupid, farcical Michael Oliver in the bin. On 47 minutes, Gomez, who was already on a yellow, decides that he's going to kick the ball away just as it was just sort of going off for a throw-in. And the Arsenal players complained, Michael Oliver did nothing. Make of that what you will. But that second half, Amanda, I was actually shocked after the first 15 minutes at how good we were. Like, they were saying it in the commentary. It doesn't look like Arsenal have 10 men on the pitch. We dominated the ball. We dominated the chances. Everything was in the Wolves' defensive third. It was fantastic. I was so pleased. I was so proud. So do you want to just touch on that then, given that you mentioned it, how proud you were? I think this was the moment. It was that 15 minutes after half-time. Like, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I actually said that. I actually said to Carl, it doesn't feel like we've got 10 men. I'm really proud. I forgot for periods because obviously it happened before the second half. We're all raging, and then the game starts, and we've actually played really, really well. We started to dominate. We started to pass the ball around lovely. As we said, if we did have someone that could put the ball in the back of net, it might have been 2 or 3-0 up. And again, as we all said, Kai's knackered and he does need a break. And then all of a sudden, Gomez has kicked the ball away, and I've gone, he's kicked the ball away. That is the definition of a yellow card, kicking the ball away. Declan Rice does it like that. Gomez does it like that and nothing. And you just sit there and go, I'm done with all this shit. Excuse my language. I am done with this. If non-Arsenal fans cannot see how blatant this is against us, then they haven't got a clue what's going on. And then, to be fair to the ref, he did see the tackle on Gabriel, which was so vile that which should have been a straight red. He gives a yellow. It makes it even more of a farce what he'd done to Skelly. However, as we said, we're not going to go back on that. I was really, really proud of them. And when Calafiori came on, you got to love him. He is a bit wild and mental, and I love that about a player anyway. He's got that Italian passion. And just sometimes, Chris and James, you've just got to hit the ball. Stop with the side-to-side passing. Stop with the intricate little balls here and there. Just hit the frigging ball, because you never know what's going to happen. And he goes, and he goes and scores a blinder like that. And you're sitting there going, wow, did not see that coming, as in from Calafiori. And it was an amazing feeling. And then you go, oh shit, we got 12 minutes or whatever it is. What minute did he score on? Because it felt like it was the last 10 or 15
scored on
minutes.
the 74th minute.
Yeah, 15
we scored
minutes,
on the 74th minute. The sending off was on the 70th minute. I think we should rewind to that sending off, actually. James, thoughts? Straight red? Or are you happy with the second yellow?
No, it's a straight
red. Straight red. I mean, it could have been an ankle breaker, like I said earlier on in the podcast. It's a really bad challenge. Gomez, you can tell by his reaction just how bad of a challenge it is. He's falls to the floor, hands on his head. It absolutely should have been a straight red card.
I'm with you. What I find quite interesting is that I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Wolves were committing quite a lot of fouls. Michael Oliver was absolutely on top of all of those fouls in the second half. And when he gave that second yellow, it was almost like he had no choice to give that second yellow, but he was on it straight away. Michael Oliver's performance in the second half smacked to me of a guy who knew he'd got something wrong and therefore was trying to counterbalance it, because there was never a 50-50 challenge that didn't go our way in that second half. And we as fans don't want that. Just ref the game equally in all even distributions throughout the game. But James, Amanda's had a say on the goal. So do you want to have a minute or two on the goals? On the goal, sorry, and talk about Calafiori, because you said you wanted to talk about him earlier and you were saving it. So here's your moment.
Yeah, it's nothing overly special, but on the Calafiori, on the goal, fantastic, really, really good finish, and we know he's got that in the locker. We saw it in the game against Manchester City. I wish he was fit all the time, because he is such a good player. I really like him. He's still really young, got so much raw ability, great defensively, offers so much in an attacking sense as well. I want him to be fit every single game. He's not, sadly, but hopefully, fingers crossed, he can overcome his injuries. If he could be fit for the remainder of the season in the league, in the Champions League, that'd be great for us. What I don't like is a lot of people clamoring to say, why did we buy this guy when we've got Miles Lewis-Skelly? Well, I don't think anyone could have predicted Lewis Skelly would emerge in the way that he has done. You know, he's playing because we've had injuries to, Calafiori, to Tomiyasu, to Zinchenko, to basically all of our left-back options. He's emerged, and that's fantastic. But Arsenal couldn't have predicted that. We certainly couldn't have predicted that. You know, we were all looking at Wanyeri with kind of half an eye on Lewis Skelly. And it's just, great for us that he's come out of nowhere and has slotted straight into the first team. But no one could predict that. And that's why we signed Calafiori, because he's an option that can play a left back, a left centre back. And we all knew that last season left back was a problem for us because Zinchenko wasn't as good as he was. Tomiyasu was constantly injured. Kivior, I don't think any of us were truly convinced that he was an option there. So we had to buy a left back. And we've got a guy that can fill in a left back, a left centre back. It gives us the opportunity now with Lewis Skelly coming through to sell on someone like Kivior for 15, 20 odd million quid. Break even there. And I think it's a really good signing. But the caveat is that obviously he has to stay fit. That's the main thing. There's no point having a player of his quality and ability if he can't stay fit. But he has to prove in this final push of the season now that he can prove his fitness. I just think Arsenal are being really careful with him. I don't think he would have played yesterday at all if it wasn't for the sending off. And, I don't think he'll play in midweek against Girona. He might get 20, 30 minutes off the bench, but I would expect him to start against City. And for me, he is, if it wasn't for Lewis Skelly, he would be our first choice left back. I think he is that good. And I would still, even if Lewis Skelly is back for the game against City, I would still be inclined to play Calafiori if he's fit, because I just think he's that good.
He is a really, really good footballer. The other thing to note about Miles Lewis-Skelly, sorry, Amanda, just one thing, is that he's actually he's been playing in central midfield for the youth team. So this was a bit of a gamble because we had no bodies there at that time because Calafiori was injured, Zinchenko wasn't right, Tierney wasn't back yet. When he first came on and played against Liverpool, that's that was back in October, November. He was a centre midfielder that we were slotting in square peg round hole, but he's really taken to the role. He's been fantastic. I really hope, like you said, he gets that overturned. But I'm the same as you. I think you got to think about Calafiori next weekend. He played so well against Man City as well earlier on in the season. And the other thing about that is that I'm still not convinced about his injury record. I think when you look at sports, if we look at Transfermarkt and the injuries that he's had over his career, I think we might have another Tomiyasu. But I need to park that because we need to focus on the positives. Amanda, what were you going to say?
Well, I'm just going to say the question from Avon, the comment from Avon, and I'd like to say to all over 666 of you now, thank you for joining us. And if you've got any questions, I'm busy starring them all. So please leave us your questions and welcome to the show. I just want your opinion on what he's saying because a few people have said this. I'd have liked to have seen Tierney at left back when he came on and Calafiori pushed up on the left. The point I'm getting to, I think he's better on the ball than defending. And a lot of people say that about Calafiori. So what do you think on that, Chris? Do you agree or not?
I think we haven't got enough of a sample size of Calafiori, but from what I've seen, he's very good on the ball. Calafiori, I think he is a good defender. He's got athleticism. He can tuck in that inverted role, and he presses higher up the pitch. Like if you think about where he scored his goal against City, where he scored his goal yesterday, he does put bodies in the pitch and in the box. And one of the things that Arteta's talked about, and I think Ødegaard referenced it within the last week or so, or Rice, is Arteta's spoken about the need for us to be crashing the box a bit more. Like we need more bodies in the box because, teams are playing us with a low block and you're going to need to put bodies in the box in order to get those loose balls that spin out. You can then take chances from, and Calafiori does that. So, yeah.
Anything to add to that, James?
What was the question, Amanda? Sorry.
Just, it's on the screen. Can you see it about Tierney playing left back because Calafiori is better on the ball than he is defending?
No, not for me. I would always be sticking with Calafiori at a minute, purely because Calafiori is here for the long term. Tierney is not. And you've got to look at the players that are going to be part of your setup for the years to come. As much as I love Tierney, and I'm really enjoying these cameos from him, I've got to say, because I think he just shores us up. He works really, really hard, puts in exquisite crosses. That's all it should be from Kieran Tierney. He should not be someone that we're talking about as being our starting left back. Not because I don't think he's capable, but because we've got two good options now in Calafiori, in Lewis Skelly. These are guys that are going to be here for, the next decades potentially, or let's say at least the next 5 years. Lewis Skelly, you'd hope he's here forever. But Calafiori, I mean, he's hopefully going to become part of furniture. So let's keep playing these guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I just wanted to point that out.
Can we talk a little bit about David Raya? Because I don't think we've given him some flowers.
I was just
He
about
made
to
a couple
say
of
that.
really good saves yesterday. Do you want to go into it then, Amanda, and then get a few?
Well,
Because I thought some of his saves he made were very good yesterday, and he had an assured performance.
I feel with Raya, apart from one game, which was the penalties against United, he always comes out and he makes one or two really important saves per game that keep us in it. He really does, and I absolutely love him. I know he actually wants to be on the field, though. You know that, don't you? He doesn't want to be in goal. He plays so far up. He's like playing
He's a rush goalie.
Rush goalie, as I call it, rush goalkeeper. Excuse me. And I feel so safe with him. I mean, I'm touching wood, obviously, because that can touch wood. I can that can change, but I just feel he's so important there. He gives the back four confidence as well. And yesterday, another save, another two saves that kept us in it. And I just think he's invaluable to us. I really, really do. He gives me a bit of heart failure at times. And I'm glad he's cut out the ridiculous time wasting, because he was, and that was doing my head in. I don't think we've seen that of late. Yeah, I think honestly, he's just a wonderful asset to have in goal, and he does save us every game.
Yeah, he's a rather useful goalie, James. I will admit to you, I will confess my sins. I didn't really, and you know this, for a long time, even parts of this season, I've been thinking I couldn't really see much of a difference between Raya and Ramsdale. And a lot of I'm kind of the last horse here to cross the finish line, I know, but it feels like you really can see the difference, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was with you when we first signed David Raya. I was like, okay, why are we doing this, first of all? But also, how are we going to manage Raya and Ramsdale both playing? Because we've got two first choice keepers here. One of them's going to play Champions League, one of them's going to play Premier League. And it was kind of assumed that we were going to see them play 50-50 of the games. And I'm glad that it's not worked out that way. And I'm glad that Arteta has proved a lot of us wrong, myself very much included in that, because Raya I can't really think of a better keeper in the league than him, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, he has a couple of howlers every now and then, but they're very, 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 very few and far between. Like, we're talking a handful a season at most. Question marks on the penalties against United. That's definitely an area of his game he needs to work on. But he's just fantastic. Even going back to the early games of the season, I remember at Wolves at home, he made a fantastic save against Strand Larsen, which would have put Wolves 1-0 up. And then look at the saves he made against Villa. Yeah. He's been fantastic. Apart from maybe one game, I think he's been brilliant all season long. What I would say is, whilst we're on the topic of this discussion, I do feel bad for Aaron Ramsdale. I can't help but look at some of his games for Southampton when they show the highlights and look at the errors he's making and think, you didn't really do that for Arsenal. Yes, he did have some clangers, but one of those ones he made where he parried the ball out and it ended up falling back into his own net that happened last week. I mean, that's not the Aaron Ramsdale we saw at Arsenal. Yes, we know that he had a tendency to occasionally pass it to the opposition, but I remember his range of passing was so good. He could basically put the ball on Martinelli's foot at one point. Yeah, he was that good with his distribution. And I worry that he's definitely not in the England fold at all. Like, he's not even being considered for that. He's going to get relegated with Southampton, but I feel like he's regressed as a goalkeeper. And that season where Raya came in, although obviously we shouldn't be looking at players that don't play for Arsenal at this point, but it is quite sad. It's a bit of a shame to see his career go this way, and I do hope that he gets picked up in the summer by someone.
Yeah, well, with the Ramsdale thing, so I remember just before we signed him, listening to a podcast, an Arsenal podcast. I can't remember which one, but they got a Sheffield United fan on to talk about him. And that Sheffield United fan said he's one of these guys who, if he's feeling confident, he's brilliant. When he gets into, it's almost that whole Andre Villas-Boas negative spiral thing. Like when it starts going bad, it goes terrible for Ramsdale. When it's good, it goes brilliant. So it's positive, negative spirals. And I suspect, I don't know. We aren't privy to what options he had. I can't believe that Southampton was the only team in the Premier League looking for a goalkeeper, and that was his only choice. If he had multiple choices, choosing Southampton was just poor on his part, because you looked at their team at the beginning of the season and you thought probably going down, and the way that they play, like they are going to go down with probably one of the lowest points hauls in Premier League history. So personally, I think it might have been a poor sort of footballing choice if he had more than one option, because of Southampton. But let's focus more on what we have got, which is, again, like we said, David Raya made a really, really good save, tipping the ball around. I think it was Cunha from in the second half. I think it was. That was a very, very good save. And on Cunha, let's talk about him just for a second, James, and then I'll go to you, Amanda. That was a few people talking about that being a bit of a dress rehearsal for him yesterday. Didn't really see much from him. Where do you stand on this? Because we've got to the point in terms of analysing this game where, there was an 8 Nori chance which Raya had made a save on 84 minutes, but we're sort of done wrapping up that, and we're getting to the point where we need to talk a little bit around the upcoming week, because it's transfer deadline day week on Friday, and Cunha's there. He obviously wants Arsenal. Whether or not Arsenal truly want him, not sure. 80 million seems a lot of money. It was a dress rehearsal yesterday. What's your views on his performance yesterday, his potential arrival at Arsenal? Whether you think it will happen this January?
In terms of his performance yesterday, I thought he was probably one of Wolves' better players, but that's not saying much. What I do like about him, and why I think he could potentially work at Arsenal, is that he takes shots on, which isn't something that we see from our players in the areas that Cunha typically takes shots on. He takes a lot of shots from outside the box. The one that Raya saved came from outside the box. He had another shot from outside the box, which Raya saved. And he had that opportunity from the corner, which he put just wide. So he probably fit right in at Arsenal in terms of missing gilt-edged chances. But I think he's a player that we could certainly benefit from. I don't think he's the out-and-out number 9 that would take the weight off of someone like Kai Havertz. He seems to play a little bit deeper, so I'm not sure he's the right option. I like him. I think he's really tenacious. He's got the work rate. He's got all the things that Mikel Arteta likes. I don't think we'll sign him this window, because Wolves want 80 million. And to be honest,
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they signed him for 45 million. And you can't really begrudge them for wanting to make a profit on a player who's done very well for them this season. So they're definitely not going to sell him for anything less than, let's say, 60, 65 million. And I think that's probably going to be too much for a player of his quality. We need a version of Leandro Trossard who's younger, who's a little bit better. I think Cunha kind of ticks those boxes, but the difference is we signed Trossard for 25 million, and he's repaid that tenfold. Whereas Cunha, I can't guarantee would repay that investment, and we're talking about a huge chunk of our transfer budget that would then go into the summer as well. And then does that have a knock-on effect on our summer targets? But I know we don't talk about transfers. We absolutely have to, because we need to sign somebody. We cannot end this window without an attacking addition, whether that's a versatile forward, whether it's a striker. I don't think we're going to get a marquee signing, but we need someone that can take the weight off of Kai Havertz, that can be another quality addition. I mean, with what is it, a week to go? I think it's going to be so difficult. But this is when the transfer market comes alive. I know people get frustrated that, we've waited so long. This is just how the transfer market works. We all know it. These deals take so much time. The market only really comes alive in the last week, when opportunities arise, when players kick up a fuss. So Arsenal have to act. They have to take opportunities whilst they're there. I fully believe that they are trying to make things happen, and I completely sympathise that we can't just go out and sign anyone. I don't want Marcus Rashford. I don't want, a Kolo Muani, for example. I don't want just another body to come into the squad. I want someone that is not going to be alone. I want someone that's going to be here for the long term. But we're in such a difficult situation where everyone knows we need this addition. We're going to have to pay well over the odds but we need to do it. There's no ifs, no buts. We don't do it, then our season is hanging by a thread. We'll get Bukayo Saka back, but we've lost Gabriel Jesus. We have no one else to play with Kai Havertz up top. We have no choice.
Amanda, you might as well answer John G's question.
I think we might get someone on loan, but as everybody knows in the world, we're desperate for someone to put the ball in the back of the net, inflated prices. Hopefully some players are kicking up a stink and they do want to come to us. But it's forced upon, isn't it? Because as he said, we haven't got, Jesus is gone. Saka's not going to be back, God knows till what, March, April. It's looking like we're in desperation mode, and we are, absolutely. And I think Arteta said it all last week when he said, I know what we need, which is very rare for a manager to actually come out and say something like that. Normally they say, we work with a squad and, we'll see and everything. But he actually knows. They're not idiots. He's not an idiot, our manager. He knows what we need to do. Can we do it? Well, how many days? When does it end? Friday? Is it the 31st? Is that when it ends?
Yes, no, it's Friday. So we've got.
That's the third.
Is it the third? Is it?
What, Monday the 3rd?
Okay, so we've got 8 days left.
Oh, got 8. Okay. Yeah, I think we will sign one. I don't know who. And I don't think that Cunha is worth 80 million quid, to be honest, but then it's not my money. What do you think, Chris? Do you think we're going to get anyone?
I think they will do a deal. I don't think it'll be Cunha. I don't think it'll be Šeško. I don't think it'll be Gyökeres. I think they're going to go. I think what's going to end up happening is it'll be, you know how Sterling was kind of a last minute market opportunity type thing? I think it might be something like that, which makes me think, I do wonder if nobody goes in for Vlahovic. The rumours are that he's on 350 grand a week, right? And he's a bit of a troubled sort of individual. And I had a debate with a couple of people like West Antone. I had a debate with him and Gaza Arsenal as well on Twitter and Blue Sky about his troubles and the money that he's on. But if we get, because they've signed Randall Kolo Muani, Juventus have, if we get to the last day and they haven't offloaded him, they cannot afford to just be playing Kolo Muani because they've signed him, but also just not send Vlahovic out the door. They want a sale or they want a loan with an obligation. If Arsenal just come in and say, well, we're not going to do a buy, we're not going to do a loan with an obligation, we'll just do a straight up loan. And if Vlahovic is interested in it, I wonder if it'll be something like that. The other option, which I've thought about, is because his contract's running out at the end of the year. I'll get your view on this, James, as well. Jonathan David, his contract's running out. Lille will lose him for nothing if they don't. Could be an option, right?
Yeah, definitely. He's not been spoken about at all. There don't seem to be any links to him whatsoever from what I can see. But I would much rather have Jonathan David than Vlahovic. I think he'd be much more affordable. If we could go to Lille and slap 15, 20 million down to get him done now, that'd be great. Would it happen? I'm not too sure. They might just accept that they're going to lose him in the summer. But what I want to see from Arsenal is them testing the waters. I want to see them putting bids in, testing the Resolver teams, and just basically getting players to turn their heads a little bit. Because I know we do this whole thing where we talk to the players and we, give them an idea of how they're going to fit into the team. We convince them before we go to the club and make the bid. I think we've got to flip that on its head because needs must at the minute. Put the bid in, get the player excited, if they are excited, which they should be, about coming to Arsenal, and get them to kick up a stink. I hate that way of doing it, and I don't think it's right. But we have to do something. Like we're in a desperate situation here. I just hope, whether it's Jonathan David, whether it's, I'm not particularly sold on the idea of Vlahovic, to be honest. But if it's going to be him, Arsenal have to go to clubs and just start putting their money down at some point.
Yep. Amanda, should we do some questions? We've got about 10 minutes left before the end of the show. You want to fire away some questions?
Okay, let's talk about the Carabao Cup. Carl said, is the Carabao Cup tie already done, or can we turn it around against Newcastle? Should we be playing our strongest team? Christopher?
Personally, I'd just chuck it, if I'm honest. I don't think we can come back from 2 at Newcastle. I think they're going to make it a shitty, gritty, foully, annoying game. They're going to have annoying fans that are going to be loud and boisterous. We should just play a rotated team and focus on the Premier League and the Champions League, personally. James?
Yes, I don't want to go in there and be playing like a complete B team, and I don't think Arteta will. I think he will go there and he will motivate a strong team to go and win the game. Do I think we can turn it around? No, sadly. And that's not me being pessimistic. I'm just trying to be really realistic with this one. Newcastle away. We know they can concede goals. Bournemouth went there, scored 4. We can score goals, but again, it comes back to the issue that we're currently facing. We are on a threadbare team that is being run into the ground week in, week out. If you gave me the choice of turning it around against Newcastle or winning against City at the weekend, I'm picking the City game every single time. So I would rather focus our energies on the City match, and what will be at St James's Park. But I'm not as invested in the Carabao Cup as I was before the game, and that's an easy way to cop out of it. But I think it's not high on my list of priorities, being totally honest.
Right, well, I'm a little bit different to you both, because when we lost at the Emirates, I was like, it's done. I didn't even like the fact that the second tie was going to be held at St James's Park, even before we kicked off and we lost 2-0. But after last night's game, I thought, do you know what? We've got the fight in us now, and there is a chance that we get an early goal, keep them out, and get another one that would silence their fans. Remember, we're going to have quite a few thousand down there as well, because of the allocation will go up. I know they're in the gods, but they will make some noise, because the noise they made at Wolves yesterday was incredible too. I've now started to change a little bit, where I was like, we've got no chance, don't even want to bother watching it. They'll go 1 or 2-0 up and it'll be the end of the game anyway. But I'm starting to think we've got a chance after the fight we put up yesterday. And I'm a little bit different to you, James. Being older, and being the fact that I've seen us win, I call it the Littlewoods Cup, the Milk Cup, the Rumbelows Cup, whatever you want to call it. I call it the Carabao Cup. I think it's really important that we try and win it. Is it more important than beating City? Well, if you think we're going to win the league, absolutely. It's City's much more important, sorry. If you don't think we're going to win the league, then we have to go for it at St James's Park. So do I think we can still win it? Yes. Do I think we will? I don't know. You'll have to talk to me after City. So I'm a little bit different on that, and I think it is important as well. Okay, Avon, what did people make of Trossard's performance? I'm not sure if everyone clocked, that it was his hospital pass straight to Wolves player that led to MLS being sent off. Chris?
Do you know what? I wrote this down, but I forgot to mention it earlier on. His corners yesterday were absolutely terrible. There was about 3 or 4 that didn't even beat the first man. Having said that, I still think he put in a decent enough shift. I thought he did well enough. I don't think there's any Arsenal player that played yesterday that you can really criticise after that heroic second half performance. SofaScore, which is obviously somewhere which I have a look at for stats and stuff, have him down as a 7.2. He had 0.23 expected assists, 3 dribbles, 81% passes, 2 key passes. He made a number of crosses. He put the ball in. I think it was him that put the ball in for Havertz when Havertz headed it and Sarr saved it. So I don't think he was too bad, but I will say his corners were terrible. And he doesn't normally always take corners. It's normally Rice on one side and then Ødegaard on the other. But of course, Ødegaard was out. So that's probably why he was taking them.
Everyone's saying about his corners being awful. Anything to add to that, Chris? James?
No, but again, similar to Havertz, he's another one that we're running into the ground in a minute. He's playing pretty much every single game. So I sympathise with him, but I can't excuse really bad corners, sadly.
Okay. Go back to the transfer window. What do we need to sign in the window? Would not making signings being doing Arteta a serious disservice? If you think he's not in control, James, do you think that it's doing him a disservice by the board not signing anyone?
This is a really tough one to answer. I think it's a very collaborative effort. I don't think you can just say this is the board's view, this is Arteta's view. Arteta has been exceedingly vocal in saying that we need reinforcements. We've not known him be this vocal about wanting to sign players. So he clearly wants them. And I think the board will quite happily sanction a move for someone, but it needs to be that right player. They're not going to put a load of money down on the player that we're not 100% on. So I think that's kind of my view on it. And I'm not pointing the finger at the board here too much, because we know it was only last summer that we spent 200 odd million. So I'm not really blaming them. We bought brilliant players like Declan Rice. We just bought Calafiori. Make of him what you will, probably not the best example, but we have invested in this team. We bought some very good players, and I think it would be a shame if we don't invest in this final hurdle when we're on the cusp of greatness. And when you look at how well we're playing, or even just forget how well we're playing, the fact we're still where we are, given everything that has gone against us this season in terms of injuries, red cards, just nonsense that has happened, and we're still second. It's just crazy. And we're going to comfortably go through in the Champions League, you would think. Okay, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, it's disappointing, but we're still in a very healthy place. But it's difficult. It's not as simple as signing players in the summer. I fully expect the boards to back Arteta in the summer as well, but it has to be something and a player that everyone agrees on that we can do this January.
Yeah. It's a tough one, because when we signed Ødegaard on loan, it was a deal that kind of just worked. Like Real Madrid had a player that just wasn't really playing. He was still a quality player. And I don't see anyone who is this January who is in that attacking position that is at a Madrid or a Barcelona, or maybe there are, but I don't see anybody who isn't quite getting enough game time that the deal works well for everyone. It feels like, even like you just said it, we were talking about Jonathan David earlier. Lille are fourth at the moment, fighting for a Champions League spot. So they might be thinking, well, £10 million for a player like this to get this window, or £15 million this window, versus if we get Champions League money, that pays for itself. So it's probably worth keeping him. And I think it's the same with RB Leipzig, with Šeško. It's probably the same. I mean, Sporting are top of their league by a mile, but Gyökeres, they've got such a big sort of sell-on fee that I don't think anyone's going to go near it this January. There just doesn't seem to be that Ødegaard out there, and that's why I keep mentioning Vlahovic, because he seems like the only one that's not really he's not playing, or he's not going to be playing that much, because they've signed Kolo Muani, and it feels like there's probably a deal to be done, but it's probably going to end up being on that last day, if nobody else has snapped him up, just doing a bit of a Raheem Sterling style punt.
Oh, it's going to be interesting the next 8 days, that's for sure. We'll all be looking at the little yellow banner on Sky Sports, won't we? Okay, let's go on to another question from Carl. Are Liverpool as good as their Premier League and Champions League record this season, or have they not had to face any adversity yet? James?
Liverpool are a really good side. I've got no problems admitting that whatsoever. I think Arne Slot's come in, has kind of picked up where Jurgen Klopp left off, and has improved things. Their defence is a lot better than it has been in seasons gone by. But the caveat is that obviously they've barely had any injuries. They had the injury to Alisson, but off the top of my head, I can't think of any other notable injuries that they've had. If you look at the injury records for teams this season, they're down right at the bottom. And, it just goes to show what a good team they are when they've got everyone fit. And you can only really judge them on that at the moment. But it'd be interesting to see them without Salah, without McAllister, without Szoboszlai, and to also chuck into the mix the red cards and all the nonsense that we faced. Obviously, it would have an effect on them. And my question would be, do they have the strength in depth to cope with that? And I'm not sure that they've got the quality in depth to deal with those sort of situations. But they've not had to deal with them. And I can't, point the finger and say, oh, look, they're really lucky they've had no injuries. They're just a really good team. And I've got no real issues admitting that. And good luck to them. I hate saying that actually, but if I was in Liverpool's shoes and I was having no injuries all season, I wouldn't be looking down at Arsenal and saying, "Oh yeah, but we're only really winning because they've had injuries and things like that." We're looking at it from that point of view because we're the ones in that situation. if we were 6 points clear of a game in hand, we'd all be like, who cares? Like, just carry on doing what we're doing and let's hope we have no injuries. Obviously, if they have an injury to Van Dijk or Salah, it opens things up and it'll get interesting. But for so long as that's not happening, like John G says, I think it's their year. Things are going for them. They're grinding wins out. I even go back to the game where they just about won at Southampton. They're winning games like that quite regularly, but they're also able to sweep teams aside like Ipswich 4-1. What will be interesting is that game at Bournemouth next week, because they're coming up against one of the most informed teams in the division, a side that have beaten us, that have beaten Manchester City, that have had some brilliant results. I mean, going up to Newcastle, winning 4-1. I'll be interested to see how Liverpool get on there on Saturday. That'll be a great game.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. Do you know?
Go
on, Amanda.
I was going to say, what James has said about the injuries is so true, Chris, isn't it? I mean, you have to have that bit of luck. And also, winners of the league always grind out the results when it's not going their way from. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah. What's interesting, I had this debate on one of the Arsenal WhatsApp groups that I've got. I asked the question, because I don't know the answer, is Arne Slot, is he the Pep Guardiola Klopp elite? Because as you said, James, he's been very clever because he's come in, he's not changed, he's made a few tweaks, but broadly speaking, he's come into a settled team and he said, just keep doing what you're doing, guys. He's been fortunate with the injuries, because you wouldn't expect a 32-year-old Salah and a 33-year-old Van Dijk to basically play every single game. Liverpool have had the second least number of injured players missing for 1+ games. I saw a stat the other day on socials, behind Nottingham Forest. So they've had barely any injuries, as you talked about. But also, what's going to be interesting is it'll be interesting to see how good a manager he is next season. He could win the league this season. Everyone thinks it's the second coming. This guy's amazing. If they lose Van Dijk and Salah and Trent and get zero money for them, you've got to replace the goals, a big part of your defense, and you've got to pay big cash for it. You're not just taking a team and layering on additional players. You're just replacing players with not any extra money that you've managed to recoup. So I think it will be fascinating in the summer if they go. But as you said, James, they're a very good team. Like, we all knew that, but things have gone their way this year, which, to be fair, didn't go their way last year, because Salah was out for, I think, 6 weeks, or he was in and out of the team. I think Van Dijk had some moments. They picked up a number of injuries last year across the year. Not as bad as we've had it this year, but they did pick up a number of injuries. And that's why they kind of fell away last year, and we ended up going toe-to-toe with City. But
it'll be interesting because obviously the fixtures are going to get incredibly congested for them, because, all the power to them. They're still in the Carabao Cup. They've got the FA Cup. They've got the Champions League. When it really gets down to crunch time and they have to start juggling those games and using their squads, using players that have barely played any football for them, like Harvey Eder, like Wataru Endo, these kind of guys that haven't really featured in the first team all that much. How will that affect them? That's what I'll be interested to see. Will there be a drop-off?
Not that you wish an injury on any player ever, of course. But if Salah got injured, I think they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. They just wouldn't. He's incredible. He's just absolute world class, incredible. Puts the ball away. He's there when it counts continuously. You put Salah in our team, we'd win everything. We just would. In a fit Arsenal team, we'd win everything.
Well, we have our own Salah, Amanda, but he's injured. Yeah. That's the issue.
Well, yes and no, but Salah is completely world class, James.
No, Saka.
And yes, and I'm not talking about Saka. Sorry, I thought you were talking about someone else. Of course, but
who do you think I'm talking about? Butler.
I didn't know for that second. I was like, we haven't got someone like Salah. Of course, yes. But with that injury, that's what I'm saying. Look what's happened to us, and we should be really proud, because we are second, and we are going through in the Champions League, and we are in the semi-final of a cup. We are doing really well considering our injuries, and I'm just going to say that. Right, so let's end on this. What competition is our best chance of a trophy, Christopher?
That's a really hard one. My first instant reaction was to say Champions League, but because it's knockout, and I think I have to say Champions League because I don't think we're going to win the Premier League. I think, just as we talked about, things are just going Liverpool's way. So I've just got to, by default, go with Champions League.
Yeah, and I'm inclined to agree because I have a good feeling about the Champions League. I'm not too sure why, but I just believe that because our defense is so good, we could go away to a Real Madrid or a Bayern Munich or Juventus or whoever it may be, and I would back us to not get well beaten. Like I would back us to go there and really put in a good, rigid, solid defensive performance. And if we were able to get Saka back, fingers crossed, in March time, and if we're able to sign a player, I mean, our attack's going to look a hell of a lot better. So I back us in the Champions League, to be honest. I think we can win it.
And get Ben White back as well. And all of a sudden, we're heading into March strong. If we win the Champions League, I've done it all. That's it. I've seen it and done it all. When I was in the Stade de France that night and we lost to Barcelona in the Champions League final, I honestly don't think I spoke the whole way home. And if you think you've seen referee corruption, well, I'm not even going to go there with what happened that night. But yes, it'd be fantastic to win the Champions League. Incredible.
Yes, indeed. Right then, I think we're done, Amanda. Do you want to sing us home?
I'll sing you all home. Thank you to everyone. We've nearly hit 1,000 people in watching us today. So hello. Please come and join us on our Same Old Arsenal podcast channel on YouTube. If you press that little bell and subscribe, you'll never miss a show. We will be back post City. So probably the Monday evening, I think we'll all be back. We've got Girona this week. We've got City. It's another big week for us. Thank you for joining us, boys. Here's to another uneventful game against City next Sunday, which I pray that the next time we come back, we are not talking about referees and VAR. Just talk about a wonderful football game that we actually win. And we're all happy and not talking about bloody VAR. Thank you to everyone and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Always Arsenal.